The Colonial Parkway murders were the serial murders of at least 10 people in Virginia between 1986 and 1989. The killings were associated with the Colonial Parkway, a 22-mile-long thoroughfare that cuts through the Colonial Historical Park and connects Jamestown, Williamsburg, and Yorktown. Long stretches of the road are devoid of any streetlights and extremely isolated, making it a popular lover's lane location frequented by young adults. In each incident, a young couple sitting in a vehicle were targeted and both were killed. 3 pairs of victims were recovered, and another couple remains missing and presumed dead. Several other homicides have also been tentatively linked to the 4 confirmed cases. The causes of death confirmed strangulation, gunshot, and stabbing. The killer drove his victims' vehicles away from the murder sites. The linking of the 4 crimes is circumstantial. In January 2024, authorities announced that at least 2 of the murders, David Knobling and Robin Edwards, have been conclusively linked to an official suspect, Alan Williams Sr., a local fisherman who died in 2017. Wilmer is also linked through DNA evidence to the previously unrelated murder of Teresa Lynn Spohr Howell. Wilmer has been described as suspect number 1 in the presumed murders of Cassandra Haley and Keith Cole, but was freed after an FBI polygraph. The first known victims were Kathleen Marian Kathy Thomas, 27, a United States Naval Academy graduate, and College of William and Mary Sr., Rebecca Ann Becky Dowski, 21, a business management major working as a stockbroker. Between 5:30 and 5:46 a.m. on the 12th of October 1986, a jogger saw a white 1980 Honda Civic down an embankment in the Cheatham Annex Overlook at the Colonial Parkway, 7 miles east of Williamsburg. The vehicle had veered off the road into thick, dense shrubbery only a few feet from a 15-foot drop into York River. A highway patrolman was called to the scene and discovered Thomas and Dowski's bodies inside Thomas's Civic. The couple had disappeared after leaving a computer lab at William and Mary on the 9th of October at around 6:30 p.m. Thomas had gone to the Parkway in the past to be alone with a romantic partner. An autopsy found rope burns on both of their necks and wrists, as well as signs of strangulation. However, their throats had been slashed so deeply that they were nearly decapitated, and the killer had covered the bodies and the vehicle with diesel fuel, but hadn't lit them on fire. Over 100 latent and full prints were found on the interior and exterior of the car, but they didn't match anyone in the police records. Dowski's body was found in the back seat of the car, while Thomas was found stuffed into the hatchback. Thomas apparently struggled with her attacker as a clump of hair was found between her fingers. Both women were fully clothed and there was no evidence of SA. Authorities ruled out robbery as a motive, since both women's purses were in the vehicle and no money or jewellery had been taken. At that time, the police believed that the murders happened elsewhere, as there was not much blood in the car itself. In November 1986, just weeks after the murder, the press reported that the FBI profilers at Quantico, who had studied serial killers, were constructing a profile of the person or persons responsible for the murder. In 2024, Bill Thomas recalled that 4 days after his sister Kathy's death, the FBI suggested to him that the perpetrator may have been a member of law enforcement. In 1988, salesman David Lee Knobling, 20, and 8th grade student Robert Margaret Edwards, 14, were murdered. Edwards and Knobling met on the 19th of September when David agreed to drive his younger cousin on a date with Robin Edwards to see the comedy film Dragnet. David left his house at around midnight while Robin left hers half an hour later. A group of teenagers partying on Ragged Island until 2 a.m. reported no sign of his truck. His black Ford Ranger had previously been discovered on the 21st of September by patrolmen at the Ragged Island Wildlife Refuge's parking area, with the wipers, engine and radio still running, and some articles of clothing inside. Both doors were open, and the driver's side window was partially rolled down, causing police to speculate that the perpetrator either was or had been posing as an uninformed officer. Knobling's wallet was found inside the pickup, which ruled robbery out as a motive. On the 23rd of September, their bodies were found being washed ashore with the tide about 100 feet apart on the bank of the James River. Both had been shot, Edwards in the back of the head, execution style, and Knobling twice, once in the head and once in the shoulder. Both were partially clothed. Investigators were unsure if an SA had taken place. Despite Edwards being underage, it was presumed that she and Nobling had an sexual relationship. The state police later said that she was assaulted. Authorities suspected a connection between the double murder of Nobling and Edwards to that of Dowski and Thomas. Although the former deaths didn't occur on the Colonial Parkway, both sets of victims were couples who'd been killed at or around Lovers Lane areas, and the two locations were only about a 30-minute drive apart. On the 8th of January 2024, the police announced that DNA evidence revealed the identity of Nobling and Edwards' killer as Alan Wilmer Sr., a hunter and fisherman. Via DNA evidence, he was also linked to the otherwise unrelated 1989 murder of Teresa Lynn Howell. Brian Craig Pettinger, 25, a heavy equipment operator employed as a maintenance man for a local department complex, was last seen at a Hampton, Virginia ballroom dance studio on the 4th of December 1987 at 11:30 p.m. He was training to become a ballroom dance instructor. 2 days after reporting him missing, his wife discovered his vehicle in the parking lot of the Newmarket North Mall. 2 months later, on the 3rd of February 1988, fishermen found Pettinger's body floating in a marshy area of the James River in Suffolk, Virginia, near the mouth of the Chuckatuck Creek that follows into the James River. His wrists and ankles were tied and a rope was around his neck. The lead investigator of the case believed that Pettinger had likely been hogtied. The autopsy showed that Pettinger had blunt force blows to the back of the head. He was found to have been thrown alive into the river and drowned, unable to swim. His murder remains unsolved. It occurred during the period and near the area where the murder took place. Pettinger worked as a security guard and loss prevention officer at the same security services company as the mother of Robin Edwards at the same time of Robin's murder. Bonnie Edwards worked as a receptionist there. Suspect Wayne Elliott Mack, a fellow dance instructor, later acknowledged having left the studio with Pettinger. However, Mack died by suicide a few months later. On the 10th of April 1988, Christopher Newport College students Cassandra Lee Haley, 18, and Richard Keith Cole, 20, were reported missing. Cole, who was on a 2-week break from his serious girlfriend Selena, asked out Haley, a business classmate, to see a movie on Saturday night and then go to a party. Cole's brother purchased beer for him. Cole picked up Haley at her family's residence in Grafton for the first date. The couple travelled in Cole's red 1982 Toyota Celia. The pair attended a party in the University Square area, where they were seen socialising separately. They were last seen leaving the party sometime between 11:30 p.m. and 2:25 a.m. Cole's unoccupied vehicle was found at the York River Overlook in Yorktown on the day of the disappearance. The keys were on the driver's seat and a watch and eyeglasses were left on the dashboard. Nearly all of the clothing Cole was wearing, including his underwear, were also found in the back of the car, as were some of Haley's. Police later confirmed that it was the same clothing the couple had worn the night they disappeared. Bailey's purse and Cole's wallet, however, were missing. Police dogs tracked the two students' scent past the site of the Dowski-Thomas vehicle recovery to the Indian Creek shoreline, where dogs tried to enter the water. Park authorities initially suggested that they had gone swimming and drowned, but the claim was met with great scepticism given the water temperature and the steep 20-foot embankment. In the days after their disappearance, the FBI became aware of a fisherman in a pickup who had approached at least one other couple on the parkway around that same time. The suspect, identified decades later as Alan Wade Wilmer, was placed under surveillance and police observed him cleaning and spray painting his pickup. The FBI executed a search warrant for his home, finding handcuffs and a gun. An FBI polygraph examiner cleared Wilmer, who was freed. In May 1988, the FBI offered a $10,000 reward. By June, the moniker Colonial Parkway Murders was being applied to the killings. On the 1st of July 1989, Teresa Lynn Howell, 29, was last seen leaving popular Hampton night spot, the Zodiac Club, at around 2:30 a.m. 7 hours later, her body was found by a construction worker in a nearby wooded area. She'd been SA'd and strangled. Her murder was not connected to the Colonial Parkway murders until 2022, when DNA from the case was matched to DNA from the Nobling Edwards slaying. The DNA was later identified as belonging to Alan Wade Wilmer. On the 5th of September 1989, Anna Maria Phelps, 19, and her boyfriend's brother, Daniel Lower, 29, vanished en route to Virginia Beach. Lower's car, a gold 1972 Chevrolet Nova, was found abandoned at the Interstate 64 rest stop in New Kent County. It's unclear whether Phelps and Lower were killed at the rest stop or elsewhere. Both the driver and passenger side doors were unlocked and the keys were still in the ignition. Police found dirt and grass stains on the vehicle's underside, suggesting the car had recently been driven through the woods. Phelps's purse was found inside the car, so again robbery was ruled out as a motive. On the 19th of October, the skeletonized bodies of Phelps and Lawyer were found in a wooded area by hunters along Interstate 64 between Williamsburg and Richmond. They were covered in an electric blanket from Lawler's car and were badly decomposed. It's been impossible to determine either the cause of death or whether there had been an SA. The hunters discovered the bodies on a logging road about a quarter of a mile from Courthouse Road, a location about a mile from the rest stop where Lowell's car was found. In 2010, a note was discovered in the box taken years earlier from Phelps's apartment. The note, which was undated and purportedly written by Phelps, indicated that she was to meet someone in a blue van at a rest stop. The note named an individual and provided a phone number. On the 21st of August 1984, the bodies of Michael Sturgis Margaret, 21, and Donna Lynn Hall, 18, were found in a wooded area approximately 300 yards southwest of the King's Crossing apartment complex in Henrico. Margaret and Hall had been dating for 4 years and were engaged. On the 17th of August, the couple had told their respective families that they planned to go on a camping trip together. This was the last time they were seen alive. 3 days later, a retired dentist walking his dog discovered Margaret's Jeep backed into the depression off the trail with a passenger door open, keys in the ignition, and ashtray open. One red bandana was hanging from the rearview mirror and another loosely tied around the clutch. The canvas top of the Jeep had been rolled up and pinned back, even though it had been raining over the weekend. Inside the back end were 2 suitcases and a paper bag filled with clothes. A trail of blood led to the bodies of Hall and Margaret underneath a checkered red and blue blanket about 20 feet away. Both victims had been stabbed and their throats slit. The state coroner stated that they died at 2 a.m. on the 18th of August, only hours after they were last seen. Both had the sedative Demerol in their systems. Hall's body was found without shoes, no defensive wounds, and clutching pine needles, leading investigators to believe that she and Margaret were actually killed where their bodies were found. Margaret also had defensive wounds and a comparatively lower dosage of Demerol in his system. Some detectives believe that Hall and Margaret were the first victims of the Colonial Parkway killer due to similarities in modus operandi. In 2024, after DNA identified Alan Wade Wilmer, it was revealed that Alan's brother Keith Wilmer was a suspect in the 1985 death of Mary Kaiser Harding, 24. Keith's wife worked at the same bank as Harding. Keith had been banned from the bank and its parking lot for actually harassing customers and employees, including Mary. Laurie Ann Powell Compton, 18, a Gloucestershire high school graduate, went missing on the 8th of March 1988 after having an argument with her boyfriend which ended with Laurie getting out of his car. She was last seen by him at 11:30 p.m, walking on Route 614 towards Route 17 in the White Marsh area in Gloucester County, Virginia. On the 2nd of April 1988, her body was spotted floating in the James River off Craney Island near Ragged Island. Her body was found nude and with multiple stab wounds to her back. Compton worked at the same security company that Pettinger and Edwards' mother worked at the time of her murder. Powell's boyfriend, Chris Cutler, was a suspect in the murder. The bodies of Julianne Marie Williams, 24, and Laura Lolly Salisbury Winans, 26, were found by park rangers at the Shenandoah National Park on the 1st of June 1996, after Lolly's golden retriever, Taj, was located wandering near the White Oak Canyon Trail. The 2 young women were in a relationship and on the 19th of May 1996 went on a camping trip in the Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. Julianne and Laura were last seen alive on the 24th of May in the park. On the 31st of May, their families reported them missing. Their bodies were found at a remote campsite in the park about a quarter mile from Skyline Drive and off Appalachian Trail. Laura was found inside the tent. Julianne was found in a sleeping bag about 40 feet away down an embankment. Their hands were bound, their mouths were gagged, and their throats were slit. Both were partially undressed, but neither were SA'd. The FBI investigated whether Julianne and Laura's murders were related to the 1986 murders of Kathleen Thomas and Rebecca Ann Dowski. In that case, both victims were similarly bound and stabbed. Both double murders occurred on National Park property, the historic Colonial Parkway and the Shenandoah, which were connected by Interstate 64. Detective Steve Spingola, who was asked to investigate the Colonial Parkway murders as a private investigator, believed that the murders of Kathy and Rebecca were not related to the other Colonial Parkway murders at all and were instead connected to the Williams and Winions murders. In 2001, the Department of Justice indicated Darnell David Rice for the murders, but charges were dropped after DNA found at the scene matched neither Rice nor the victims. In June 2024, the FBI announced new DNA evidence linking the killing to serial killer Walter Leo Jackson, with a 2.6 trillion to 1 match between DNA from Jackson and DNA found at the scene of the crime. Jackson died in 2018 while incarcerated for other crimes. At the first crime scene, Thomas's wallet had been removed from her purse as if she was preparing to show her identification. Just days after the first murder, the FBI privately suggested to the family that the perpetrator might have been a member of law enforcement or another authority figure. In the murders of Dowski and Thomas, a piece of nautical line had been found in Thomas's hair. The killer attempted to use diesel fuel to set fire to the vehicle, suggesting the perpetrator purchased fuel at a gas station to use in a boat rather than purchasing it directly from a marina, a practice common to local fishermen. The sharpness of the knife, which nearly decapitated Thomas, also suggested a fisherman. Knobling and Edwards were also found on the banks of the James River. In the Halley Cole case, police dogs traced a scent from the car to the nearby edge of the York River, suggesting the involvement of a boat. Kathy Thomas's vehicle was found with the driver's seat adjusted for someone taller than her, suggesting the killer may have driven it before it was pushed off the embankment. A search of the area failed to find any pools of blood. The murders had happened elsewhere, potentially somewhere not even on the parkway. David Nobling's truck was found with the doors open, keys in ignition, and the radio playing. Nobling was an automotive enthusiast and never left his truck unlocked. Nobling consistently parked by backing in, yet the truck was found parked by driving forward. He had wired his car's radio directly to the battery so that the ignition didn't need to be set to accessories, as it was when the truck was discovered. This suggested that someone other than him had been the last to operate the vehicle. When Keith's Cole vehicle was found in the parkway, families quickly disputed that they would have intentionally parked there. Both families reported that their loved ones had a fear of the dark, isolated parkway at night time. Cole's keys were in the ignition and his gold wristwatch was left in the seat, something family insisted he would never do. Daniel Lower's vehicle was found near a westbound interstate rest area, but Lower and Phelps were known to have been travelling eastward to Virginia Beach. A feathered roach clip, which Lower kept attached to the rearview mirror, had been transferred to the driver's side mirror. Larry McCann, head of the Virginia State Police's Behavioral Science Unit, argued that two individuals were working together in the murders. He felt the level of control demonstrated over victims suggested two perpetrators. Irvin Wells of the FBI also suggested a pair of offenders. On the 19th of April 1988, press reported that local private detective Ronald Little, then under arrest for immigration charges, alleged that he was a suspect in the Parkway murders. Robin Edwards' mother, Bonnie, had been employed by the company while Brian Pettinger had worked as a security guard and loss prevention officer for the firm. Laurie Ann Powell Compton, who had gone missing on the 8th of March 1988, was also an employee of the company. However, the FBI denied that Little was a suspect in the murders. Alan Wade Wilmer, nicknamed Pokey, worked as a fisherman on his own boat, the Denny Wade, primarily harvesting clams and oysters. He later started a tree-cutting company. He was an avid hunter, a member of the local hunting club, and won archery competitions. He was married on the 22nd of February 1975, and he later divorced. He had 2 children, both adults at the time of his death. He was known to confront couples on the Colonial Parkway. In one instance, he confronted a girl and a long-haired boyfriend, mistaking the couple for a same-sex couple. Upon seeing they were heterosexual, he laughed. Wilmer placed himself near the site of the Keith Cole Cassandra Haley recovered vehicle. Despite public protest, Wilmer's DNA was not entered in the CODIS, the US's national DNA database. Here is the timeline of the confirmed murders. 9th of October 1986, Rebecca Dowski and Kathy Thomas last seen leaving University Computer Lab together. 12th of October 1986, Rebecca Dowski and Kathy Thomas found murdered on Colonial Parkway. 19th of September 1987, David Nobling and Robin Edwards last seen at respective family homes. 23rd of September 1987, David Nobling and Robin Edwards found murdered on Ragged Island. 4th of December 1987, Brian Craig Pettinger goes missing after training at Ballroom Dance Club, a studio on Mercury Boulevard, vehicle found in nearby mall parking lot. 10th of April 1988, Cassandra Haley and Keith Cole reported missing after university party, car recovered on Colonial Parkway which Cole was leery of visiting. 1st of July 1989, Teresa Lynn Howell found murdered hours after leaving Zodiac Club on Mercury Boulevard. 5th of September 1989, Anna Maria Phelps and Daniel Lower missing, car recovered at New Kent rest stop on I-64 westbound, opposite of their direction of travel. 21st of October 1989, Phelps and Lower's bodies found at Hunt Club property near New Kent rest stop. Next is compiled the information about the confirmed murders. Rebecca Dowski and Kathy Thomas, last seen on the 9th of October 1987 at a campus computer lab. Their car was recovered on the 12th of October off Parkway Embankment. Their vehicle staging was that the driver's seat was adjusted for a taller driver. Their bodies were recovered on the 12th of October inside the vehicle. Their cause of death was near decapitation from a sharp blade, and there was no link to Wilma. David Knobling and Robert Edwards was last seen on the 19th of September 1987 at respective family homes. Their car was recovered on the 21st of September at Ragged Island Lot. Their vehicle staging, keys in ignition at accessory position with radio on, not backed in, doors open, window down. Their bodies were recovered on the 23rd of September at the beach of Ragged Island near their truck. Their cause of death was a gunshot. Their link to Wilma was his DNA. Brian Pettinger, last seen on the 2nd of December 1987 at a ballroom dance studio. His car was discovered on the 4th of December at Newmarket North Mall parking lot. His vehicle staging, the door handle almost broken off. His body was recovered on the 1st of February 1988 at the James River Marsh in Suffolk. His cause of death, blunt force trauma to the head, drowning, and had no link to Wilma. Cassandra Haley and Keith Cole, last seen on the 10th of April 1988 at University Square Party. Car was recovered on the 10th of April 1988 at Colonial Parkway. Their vehicle staging was keys in ignition, gold wristwatch on the seat. The bodies were never recovered, and as a result, their cause of death is unknown. However, their link to Wilma is that Alan Wade Wilma was seen on the Parkway and was a prime suspect in 1988. Teresa Howell was last seen on the 1st of July 1989 at the Zodiac Club. Her body was recovered on the 1st of July at a construction site. Her cause of death was strangulation, and her link to Wilma was that his DNA was found. Anna Maria Phelps and Daniel Lower, last seen en route eastbound to Virginia Beach. Their car was recovered on the 5th of September 1989, westbound on I-64 Kent rest stop. Their vehicle staging was that 5th of September 1989, the roach clip was removed and the keys were still in the ignition. The bodies were recovered on the 21st of October at a Hunt Club near rest area. Their cause of death was uncertain, but Phelps showed evidence of stabbing and there was no link to Wilma. Thank you for watching the video.